You're listening to the Holistic Spaces podcast brought to you by Mindful Design Feng Shui School. Episode 114, April 2021, Holistic Spaces Astrology Forecast with Kristina Wingeier. Welcome to episode 114 of the Holistic Spaces podcast, where we hope to inspire, educate, and empower you to create your own holistic spaces that nurture and resonate with you. Angie Cho and Laura Morris are the founders of the Mindful Design Feng Shui School. Together, they have over 3 decades of experience designing harmonious spaces for their clients in their successful design businesses. Through articles, books, workshops, videos, and so forth, Laura and Angie have guided thousands of people to shift their energy and revitalize their living spaces. Mindful Design School offers feng shui courses and certifications. Check us out at mindfuldesignschool.com. So, Laura, you're going to tell everyone about the announcements, yeah?
Yep. Yeah. So the announcements for this week are we are starting in April. So this coming month, we're going to be doing info sessions. So that is for our certification program. Enrollment is open. It's been open for a while, but Angie and I are going to have scheduled several live online information sessions that walk you through the whole program. So we will walk you through the program from beginning to end, what is it, what you're going to learn, when it is, the timing, the requirements, all that stuff. And testimonials from our students, and we will dive right into it. So if you are interested in studying with us and you've been thinking about doing the certification and you want more information, then go to Mindful Design School Training, or is it mindfuldesign.training.com? I think it's mindfuldesign.training.com. Yeah, mindfuldesign.training.com, or go to our website because there's a little button there that'll take you to the info session as well. So yeah, join us for that, and you can ask your questions, etc. So that is what's happening this coming month. And I am now going to speak with Kristina Wingeier, who is here at the end of this month in order to talk all about April. Hi, Kristina.
Hey, Laura, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good, thanks.
Good. Excellent. Okay. So Kristina and I have kind of figured out a good rhythm here that to figure out how we can discuss this topic, which I know very little about, but want to learn more about. And we want to make it obviously interesting for all of you out there, especially those of you that know this much more deeply than I do. So we're going to start with an overall theme for April, and Kristina is going to walk us through what she thinks is coming, and just to give us a frame of reference about what to expect from April overall.
So April is, a mix of energy. We enter the month with this enthusiasm, right? We have a lot of Aries energy. The sun is in Aries, Venus is in Aries, Mercury goes into Aries right away at the beginning of the month. So we have all of this, excited, like new beginnings, kind of fired up energy that usually comes in springtime, right? And so the beginning of the month, for the first half up till, just about the middle, we just have a very strong fire cardinal, which means like, let's start new things, fire vibe, okay? And so there's a lot of enthusiasm. There's a lot of motivation. People probably want to be like starting new things, new routines. It's like that kind of exciting shake off the winter kind of energy. And then mid-month, really things start to shift because a lot of the planets begin to move into Taurus. So we go from that fired up energy into that very stable earth. So the new beginnings, the new ideas, you got to like ground them, right? You got to like create routines and rhythms and ways of showing up sustainably to nurture your projects. And so the energy really shifts when planets start moving into Taurus. And so and then Mars also changes signs towards the end of the month. So for most of the month, Mars is in Gemini, which is an air sign, very, very busy. There's a lot of stimulation, a lot of mental stimulation, and people having lots of conversations and wanting to connect and And then Mars changes signs as well, moving into Cancer, which is a water sign. And then it becomes a little bit different because Mars gets a little cranky in Cancer. So
Okay.
people may get a little more moody toward the end of the
Okay.
month around that full moon.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we're starting out big ideas, new ideas, fiery
Mhm.
energy, and then we're stabilizing toward the
Earth.
back half of the month, the end of the month, and then we've got a little bit of crankiness possibly around the
Yeah, you know,
Cancer. Yeah.
this is the other thing. When these planets like Venus and Mercury and the Sun enter Taurus, they're going to encounter Uranus, which is a planet that's moving very slowly through Taurus. That is not a super grounded energy. It's a very kind of excitable, volatile energy. So it may
Ah,
be hard to kind of settle your energy down and get grounded because there's going to be a
okay.
lot of these Uranus conjunctions with these
Okay.
personal planets. And they will also create what's called a square with Saturn and Aquarius. And this is a repeating theme that we're going to see all year is planets in Taurus squaring these planets in Aquarius. So there's some of that
Yeah.
tensions that come back, but like not full on. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember the square. I don't
Mhm.
understand it, but I remember us talking about it. But yeah, I remember that as being something you actually mentioned was going to come up again and again.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you had mentioned Aries and there's a new moon, correct?
Yes.
And it
In
is in
Aries.
Aries.
It
And
is
what
in Aries.
look at me pretending to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So
Astrology,
so
man.
exactly. So what's that mean around the new moon? Give me some
Sure.
things.
So our new moon is on the 11th, where
Mhm.
I live, April 11th. That might be on the 12th if you're in Europe. It's in the evening. And so, we get an Aries new moon every year. So every year, the sun and the moon come together in Aries. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's the beginning of things. It's
Mhm.
fire that initiates. And so there's a very strong fire energy. There's a lot of focus um, with Venus, Mercury, the Sun, and the Moon all in Aries. So there's a lot of needs for independence, right? There's a lot of need for this is a great new moon to cultivate a relationship to courage and to bravery.
Mhm.
Aries is a pretty brave energy to specifically, I would look in my natal chart if I was someone and say, well, what part of my chart is this new moon actually activating? How can I
Mm.
maybe be a little more brave,
Mhm.
right? A little more bold without being, too bombastic,
Right.
which is
Okay.
also kind of Aries energy. But it's a really nice time to tap into your kind of fire starter energy. Like, where do you need to turn on the pilot light? Like, what kind of
Mhm.
project or area in your life would you like to like infuse that Aries energy into?
And the new moon is all about the starting something, right? So that it's and then it's cycling through for some time to continue to percolate, correct? And
Yeah,
then you
the first 2 weeks of the lunar cycle are dominated by the energy of the new moon, and the last 2 weeks are dominated by the energy of the full moon, right? I would say though, with this Aries new moon, that in 6 months' time, we will have a full moon in Aries. So
Mhm.
if you have a 6 month project or idea that you want to kind of initiate and really
Mhm.
kind of plant this, kind of get the seed idea of it and start to put that together, it's a nice way to track time for yourself
Mm.
around, some kind of, you can check in with yourself in 6 months, see how
Yeah,
you're
I
doing.
like that idea because I remember you talking about it in some of the past episodes about, keep an eye out and track it again and see where you are in 6 months, whatever you've set in that new moon and then the full moon that completes it to really see how if you were really intentional about your new moon at one particular time. So
Hmm.
that's very cool. I like that.
Yeah, and that's in
Yeah.
October, and that feels far for some people. So for some
Hmm.
people, like, pick a small,
Hmm.
thing to start, in your Aries. Again, what you need, where are you being called to be a little more brave, right?
Hmm.
Have a little more fire, turn up the heat a little bit, and you'll really be able to understand. Either you'll just know that in your own life, like, oh, I know exactly where I need to do this, or look at your natal chart and look at the house and understand like what that area means and think about, well, how could I do that in my career or in my relationships or in my home, whatever.
Okay. No, that's very good. I like that. So continuing on with the lunar cycle, the full moon is in Scorpio, correct?
That's right. The full moon is in Scorpio. I'll tell you something. Both of these moons are ruled by the same planet, Mars. In astrology, we know that every sign has a planetary ruler. And so Mars is in charge of both of these moons, the new moon and the full moon. But Mars is in a different place with each moon. The new moon, Mars is in Aries, very excitable and, thinking and communicating. And at the full moon, Mars has moved into Cancer, not as happy. And full moon in Scorpio, often full moons in Scorpio can be emotionally dramatic because it's a water sign. And the full moon, the sun, which is one half of the equation of the full moon, is conjunct Uranus, that planet I was talking about that's very excitable. So to me, when I look at this chart, I think there may be some emotional drama or some old feelings being pulled up or hard to kind of let go of some slight. Scorpio is known. I know that Scorpio, we all have Scorpio in our chart. Scorpio is kind of known for holding on to things, getting revenge, so you really, it's a pretty potent full moon. And again, by that time we have all of those Aries planets now in Taurus. So fixed signs can be a little stubborn and hard to change, right? So
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like both the new moon and the full moon are fairly high energy. I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but
I'd say they're both pretty dynamic. Although I would
that's a better
say
way.
that the new moon energy is quieter just because there's no light in the moon. And the lunar cycle, the more light that you see in the moon, the more the moon is like there's more energy behind the moon. So at the new moon, it's like quiet fire inside that may be coming out, especially say you have that 6-month project. It's coming out each month a little more.
Okay.
Whereas the full moon, it's as bright as it's going to get.
Everything's visible. Yeah.
That's a pretty dynamic, emotionally, like I'd say sticky time, perhaps.
Okay. Okay. I like that interpretation of thinking of the two of them. I mean, almost a yin and a yang thing. I mean,
totally, fire and water.
Yin is hidden and yang is visible. So yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so overall, we start in Aries, we move to Taurus and get grounded, and then we've got these dynamic, I like that description of the lunar cycle around it, and that we can kind of think about what seeds we want to plant with the new moon, and then what we need to really be aware of at the full moon in Scorpio. So we decided last time Kristina and I met that we were going to add, just for my educational purposes in this area, a key concept, an idea, an aspect of the practice of Western astrology. Last week, we talked about the moon sign, or last month, we talked about the moon sign. This month, we're talking about rising sign. So do you want to walk me through on what that means?
Sure. So when there's a couple of words you might hear my rising sign, and you also might hear my ascendant. Okay. So these words mean the same thing. And what it is indicating is it's indicating the degree of the sign that was rising in the eastern horizon when you were born.
Okay.
So your rising sign is very much tied into your time of birth and your place of birth. I mean, most people know where they were born, but a lot of people don't know when they were born for whatever reason. And so it's hard to get a rising sign if you don't have your birth time. It's a very personal, what's called an angle. These angles, the rising sign, it changes degree every 4 minutes. So you see it's like clicking very quickly.
Okay.
And so this rising sign is the sign that's in your first house. And your first house in your chart is a lot about you, your identity, and kind of how you present in the world. And the rising sign is a lot about, like, when people first meet you and they first experience you, they're experiencing you through the rising sign. more
Okay.
than the sun sign, more than the moon sign.
Mm-hmm.
It's that rising sign that's kind of that interface, that first, like your
Mm-hmm.
front door.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so, each sign has a little bit of a different front door, look to the front door. But in general, we can think of four main types: fire rising, earth rising, air rising, water rising, right? Because those
Right.
elements all
Yeah.
have a different frequency. And the other thing that is pretty cool to understand about your rising sign is that, as I mentioned earlier, all signs have a planet that's said to be their ruler. So the planet that is the ruler of your rising sign, let's say you're an Aries rising, Mars is the planet that rules Aries. So Mars becomes the planet that is driving your boat. So whatever
Okay.
the planet that rules your rising sign is in your chart, that planet is like really steering your boat in life,
Okay.
the needs of that planet. And where that planet is in your chart kind of shows you the direction that you really like to go.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm Scorpio rising, which we figured out.
Yes.
So,
Mars.
is it
Mars. Well,
Mars?
well, here it's Mars traditionally. Now, I
Yeah.
will say that modern astrologers have assigned different rising signs to a few signs that have with
Mm-hmm.
modern planets. So sometimes you'll hear that Pluto is the
Oh,
ruler of Scorpio, but I
okay.
work with Mars as the ruler of
Okay.
Scorpio.
Okay, good to know. Okay. Well, that honestly, I did not know that. So it's similar. We have astrology in feng shui. So there's a similar concept. It's almost the star where you show up in the world. It's how you navigate the world. Sounds a little bit like what you face, the face you show the world. Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, great. Okay. So anything you want to, what you're working on and what are you doing right now? You want to share with our listeners?
I'm in a big transition where I'm trying to figure out new ways of doing things in my work and business. So I'm definitely still doing consult work though, and
Okay.
that's always open for
Awesome.
one-on-one or
And
regular astrological work.
I mean, it will be in the show notes, but where can people find you?
My website's KristinaWingeier.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Kristina. Okay, so we'll
Thank
do
you,
this
Laura.
again for May. So stay tuned. Thank you so much, Kristina.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Holistic Spaces podcast. Tune in every Monday for a new podcast episode. And if you like our podcast and this episode, please share this podcast with others, subscribe on iTunes, and even better, leave a review. If you'd like to explore the world of holistic spaces or feng shui on a deeper level, please visit our website, online store, and blog for more information about feng shui and holistic living. You can support the podcast by checking out our certification and mini courses at mindfuldesignschool.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.